It's been a while since the last behind the scenes vid, huh? Well, let's dive in and tackle episodes 14 through 19 so then the finale episodes can get their own video just to them. These episodes have given us a look at even more pajamas. Sun, Cinder, and Ilya got PJs now. Yay! Fun fact, Ilya's pajamas is actually merch from her parents' dust shop, Opal Industries. Also, her socks are meant to look like chameleon colors. Episode 14, Text Messages, might be one of my favorite episodes from a framing perspective. When I was working on how I wanted to move the plotlines forward, I realized a lot of them had the kids using their scrolls to communicate. Using the text messages as the center theme of every scene was a lot of fun to play with. My favorite detail is actually Yang. Everyone else is calling, chatting, getting in contact with each other. Yang opens her scroll and has no messages, really highlighting how she's isolated herself while at Beacon. This means your semblance has evolved, right? This is so exciting! I don't think anyone in the show proper has ever said semblances can evolve, but I wanted to make sure I included that specific wording here, to properly introduce the idea that semblances can change over time as the characters get stronger. I saw some people were confused why Neo didn't change her colors to better disguise herself from Talk later at the Tipsy Cow. I included the moments where Neo grimaces and holds her head like she has a headache. I was trying to imply that she can't maintain the physical form change and simultaneously alter her colors yet, but maybe I didn't convey that very well. Here's a better look at the menus from the noodle shop Team Posey and the twins went to. My favorite detail is the jelly-filled donuts and the rice balls. Do you get it? We've seen both the Malachi twins' semblances now, heat-sensing vision and talking to animals. Remember, in the last BTS vid where I said they were money hunter and info gatherer, well, their semblances lean even more into that idea. I really liked the idea of semblances that aren't necessarily useful for combat. They're fun to play around with. For Melanie and Milsha, I've been calling their semblances Speak No Evil and See No Evil. Fun detail about Milsha's heat vision, she wasn't paying enough attention to notice, but Penny's heat signature is pretty clearly different from everyone else's. Another fun detail is the fact Neo's cat ears are cold while Blake's are hot. That's because those ears aren't real, so there's no actual blood pumping into them to register as heat. Some people have spotted the Date Everything characters I've been using as background NPCs. I figured who would be a better choice for a bouncer for the Tipsy Cow bar than Dorian himself. I just added large bullhorns to make him a faunus. And fun fact, later, with Team Posey's article about how they helped save the day, I revealed his name in Reversed Fates is Ferdinand Dorian, implying his fairy tale is Ferdinand the Bull. Also with this article, it's called The Daily Beacon, which was inspired by The Daily Bugle, Peter Parker's newspaper from Spider-Man. Also, the word heroes is spelled wrong in the title of the article to reference my thumbnail where I spelled heroes wrong the same way. I had a lot of fun with this article. The idea with Blake and Ruby's contact images with each other is that Ruby knew Blake would never agree to let her take a picture, so Ruby had to guerrilla-style snap a pic of Blake when she was caught off guard, and then Blake just chose a picture of a red rose to represent Ruby. Episode 15. Trifa plays a pretty important role here with their conversation. I wanted Trifa to help convey the idea that the White Fang isn't just a criminal organization, it's a place of community for the Faunus. I wanted her to help display that welcoming nature of the White Fang, and also share some of the prejudices Faunus would have experienced in their lifetime. My version of Trifa is based on Spider-Gwen, which I reference a bit here when she says she wanted to go to school to become a ballerina. In general, I don't want to change semblances too much, but with Tyrion, I sorta didn't have a choice. In canon, Tyrion's semblance will automatically break the aura of the person he touches, but Reversed Fates doesn't have aura, so I figured I'd use this opportunity to go all out and give him a new semblance that really leans into his fairy tale inspiration. The Scorpion and the Frog is about a scorpion who convinces a frog to cross the river, and he ends up killing the frog because it's in his nature, and then they both drown. I translated that into his ability to make someone do as he says, and the underwater voice and purple lips are meant to reflect the drowning element. The Silver Tongue is a cute play on Silver-Tongued Devil, aka someone who's very very good at lying and convincing others to do their bidding. For Volume 2, I really wanted to experiment with different art styles, and this section with Sun almost drowning was inspired by the ending of JJK's first season. I really liked the idea of playing outside the lines with their art and colors, and I used the frantic nature of it to convey Sun's building struggle with the scene. Also, fun fact, when I was working on this art, I had just watched James Gunn's Superman in theaters. It was fantastic. I loved it. But I was listening to the soundtrack while I was coloring in Tyrion, and so I was just listening to
fun, fun, fun. When we were drunk and it was fun, fun, fun.
Speaking of experimental art, 3D models, wow! Both for Yang and Pyrrha's fight, and for Ruby and Mercury's Silver Eye scene in the prom episode, I tried my hand at 3D. Their models are made in VRoid Studio. After this episode came out, I went back and updated Yang and Pyrrha's model a bit to include hair shine. VRoid is free, by the way, and the art program I used to make the custom art for their models is GIMP, which is also free, and I made everything in Ruby and Merc's scene in Blender, which is also free. If you are even slightly interested in doing something like this, you have so many free, versatile tools at your disposal. For this scene though, I did use VRM Poser. It's not free, but it's relatively cheap on Steam, especially when it's on sale. For Pyrrha's weapon, I used a flat 2D image in Blender and exported it as an FBX file to get it into VRM Poser, but one thing I didn't expect to happen was that it would still have the shape of the image from before, even if it has the transparent layers. So that's why all of Pyrrha's weapons have large square shadows. Oops. Oh well, it's just like Sonic says. You live and learn. So by the nature of Reversed Fates, having odd pairings compared to the canon show is pretty common, but I can't deny, Ruby swooping in and saving Cinder from the Paladin was definitely, like, the moment it really hit me just how wildly different everything in this scenario is. Here's the full picture of that event, by the way, and here is the full picture of Team Posy's hug afterwards, too. Yay! Also, little detail, I'm not sure how many folks picked up on this, but back in episode 1, when they first did their No More Secrets promise, Weiss was the only one of the 4 who actually did that. The other 3 all left out important information with their revelations until this moment. Weiss put all of her trust into them. She meant it. No more secrets. I saw some folks were confused on how Ilya's parents were able to steal from the Schnees without being caught. I won't spoil it, but I will say Ilya's semblance played an important role with that, and we haven't seen her semblance yet. I bet no one will be able to guess it, but if you do want to guess, leave it in the comments. I'm curious what you're thinking. Jean's non-binary revelation was the first thing I thought of for Volume 2. There's even a moment in Volume 1 where I first got to set up Jean's thoughts about being called Mr. or Mrs. Mr. Jean Arc, do you have an idea? Oh, you don't need to call me Mr. And, my favorite detail is how I got to use my narration to really hammer home that switch. Reading up into this moment, especially in this episode, there's a lot of gender-coded dialogue. Sun calls Jean dude or man, refers to Milsha and Neo as the girls, and then she calls them the boys. With my narration changing to using they-them for Jean in that instant, when they admitted it to themselves out loud, I felt like it really gave the moment extra oomph, you know? There is an unfortunate goof-up in episode 19. I had a scene with Jean and Velvet praying before they get ready for their mission, and I accidentally end up calling Jean he here. It was originally a scene that was meant to happen way earlier in the volume. If you remember, back in episode 13, in the opening, Team Persevere are talking about Emerald asking out Nora. Velvet says she's going to go pray, and this little interaction was originally going to be then, and then I moved it around for pacing reasons, but when I did, I forgot to go back and fix Jean's pronouns, and I didn't notice it while I was recording or editing. My mistake. I'm sorry. Battle Monsters G and Q are meant to be a parody of Pokemon X and Y, but the dragon monster at the end of the trailer was inspired by Koraidon from Scarlet and Violet. Ruby and Oscar then talk about the game's gimmick of magical pants, and that was based on terrestrializing forms like their crowns that they wear. I like Pokemon. Milsha also mentions Neo using Hampkin on her Battle Monsters team. This is Hampkin. He's one of my familiars from my streams as the Pumpkin Patch Witch. Back in Volume 1, they also mentioned Flumbo and Lumpkey, two of my other familiars. I'm working on a big video talking about all of the design submissions for the prom outfits. I got over 500 submissions, so forgive me if it takes a bit to go through them all. Once that vid is done, I'll link to it in the description or in the iCard. I can talk about Jean's outfit here, though. It was the only one I actually designed, after all. I saw several comments saying it reminded them of the Grom dress from the Owl House. I haven't seen the show, but I looked it up and I guess I can see where people are coming from. But actually, it was more inspired by the dance outfit Powder wore in Season 2 of Arcane, the one in that alternate reality Echo and Heimerdinger went to. I kept the cut of the dress's top the same from the show, though, and Jean's flowers are meant to symbolize Milsha, Sun, and Neo. See, they're red, yellow, pink, white, brown. Here's the full art for everyone dancing together. Again, me experimenting with different ways of doing art. For this one, I wanted to keep more of my sketch lines in the piece and limit the color palette for, like, vibes, you know? I think they turned out really cute. The only exception being the big piece for Blake and Melanie's first kiss, because I just wanted to go all out. There's not a lot of fan art of them, and this was my chance to do it. Of my own fan art for me. Mercury's dad's voice was done by my lovely boyfriend Rambo. The man's voice echoes in his head.
I hate you. Never should have been born. Stop your crying.
He did great. Thanks. I sorta redesigned Mercury's dad. Kinda. Like, we don't get a good enough look at Marcus to know what he really looks like, but I wanted to make sure he didn't get confused for Mercury, so I added the facial hair. I made the bathroom in Blender. I don't think I'm very good at modeling in Blender yet. Fortunately, public bathrooms are just a bunch of rectangles, so that made it a bit easier. Oh, I just realized, if this is the boys' bathroom, there should be urinals in here. Oh, well, whatever. There's a lot of directing things going on with this scene. I don't get to have full control of the camera with how I usually do Reversed Fates, so it was fun getting to actually play with it here. I wanted to start with this low angle and end on the reversed high angle to help visualize how Mercury's headspace has flipped during the conversation. Also, for the first half, Ruby is shot with a camera angled down at her, and then when we turn around, the camera is angled up to look at Mercury, but after she hugs him, the camera evens out so the two are on the same eye level as each other. A couple of shots here were directly inspired by shots from the actual show. This little up-close of Ruby was inspired by a similar moment with Blake in Volume 8. Mercury's shocked expression later was inspired by a shocked expression we see from Crow after meeting Oscar. Also, his expression here was inspired by Yang's expression when grilling Ozpin about lies and half-truths. Also, this eye contact moment is meant to be similar to Ruby and Blake's eye contact moments from Volume 1 of Reversed Fates. Eye contact means friendship with Ruby. Do you get it? The whole bathroom scene was actually super inspired by the song Michael in the Bathroom from the stage play Be More Chill. Mercury in the bathroom by himself.
Michael in the bathroom by himself.
I've never seen Be More Chill. This is the only song I know from it, but hot dang, I listened to it on repeat when I was crafting how I wanted this interaction to go. Music inspires me a lot. Another example is Oscar and Vernal's fight. I was inspired by Kesha's song Joyride. Not so much the lyrics, more the music with the accordion. I think it's an accordion? I don't know, it just matched the idea of Oscar's time reversal and Vernal's teleporting. Shout out to everyone who noticed it was time versus space. Although I suppose there is one lyric from Joyride that at least acted as inspiration for how I approach writing Vernal.
Are you a man? 'Cause I'm a bitch.
This fight was another artistic experiment. Specifically, I was really interested in how this scene from Arcane Season 2 was done with its storyboards. I've seen a lot of storyboarded action sequences, but I was taken aback at how formless a lot of it is done here. There aren't really many details to the figures, it's mostly their faces and a rough silhouette. It helped me realize I can get rid of some of the finer details to prioritize getting the shape and movement right. This took ages by the way. So many sheets of paper, and I hate drawing perspective. Look at this hallway. I hated drawing this. I hate drawing interiors. I feel like I'm so bad at it. I can't stand drawing perspective. The sound effects here are fun. I used a lot of Adventure Quest sound effects, and for when Oscar's semblance activates, I used The Legend of Zelda's stasis sound effect. Fun fact, originally the rose in this scene was going to be black, but then I decided green matched the two in this scene better. Mercury in Reversed Fates doesn't have a semblance, as opposed to Canon Mercury, who had it stolen. I also changed Marcus's semblance in that regard too. I like the idea of Canon Mercury's semblance being stolen, but he doesn't really talk about it. So I decided to change it to better fit the backstory I wanted for Mercury about losing his legs because his father cuts them off to force a semblance to unlock. This also reveals with Ruby's dialogue that generally everyone is considered to have a semblance, not just the huntsman, huntresses, hunters. I wanted that to be a thing, the idea that casual non-fighters would also have a semblance of some sort. It's more fun that way, and it's like a cool magical world, so why wouldn't people? And Mercury not having a semblance is technically a disability. You might have noticed, but Milsha changes her hair for the dance. This was a part of the actual design Mustard came up with, so now Milsha has shorter hair because of it. Fun! Also, Kirk, who designed the Mercury prom outfit I chose, had another submission that inspired the friendship bracelets Ilya gives the team in episode 19. Their penny design for the prom came with a rainbow friendship bracelet, and I liked the idea so much I wanted the team to actually have it. The charms on the different bracelets are all references. Ilya's is the most obtuse. I think her fairy tale inspiration is the mixed up chameleon, but there's another story about a panda that is kind of similar to that, where the panda gets confused for other bears because people only see a part of it at a time, I think? I don't remember where I heard the story, but the author of The Mixed Up Chameleon does have a story about a panda, so maybe that was it? This was a reference for me. Sometimes I do things just for me. Anyways, Penny and Cinder's charms are obvious references. A cricket like Jiminy Cricket from Pinocchio, and a mouse like Cinderella's little buddies from the Disney movie. Weiss's charm is a fox, which is actually a reference to Apple from Ever After High. She has a pet Arctic fox named Gala. Episode 19 actually has a lot of references, like you probably caught Sun mentioning he wants to be a junior detective. Cinder and Weiss being in love with the animals is a reference to their Disney counterparts' armies of various animal companions. Ren's album The Neptunes is a Ruby Chibi reference. That was the boys' band. I even mimicked Jean's face paint for the Reversed Fates version too. The stuffed toy Nora gets for Emerald is a monkey, which is referencing Abu from the Disney movie, since Emerald's fairy tale is Aladdin. Fun fact, the idea of having team pets came to me in a dream. I had a dream, the Ruby characters were all getting different dogs and stuff for their teams, and I woke up, and I was like, I'm doing that. I'm stealing it. That's mine for Reversed Fates. I want it. I also wanted to give the different regions different animals to not only give the environments some distinction, but also help come up with fairy tale illusions in the future. On that note, the dogs' different fairy tales. Zwei is the same from the show, though I was startled at how many people were taken aback at how old I made him here. I don't know, I've always thought Zwei was a very old dog, but I'm discovering a lot of people didn't think the same, which is fascinating. Venom's dog is based on Balto. The ice powers and wolf-like appearance should have helped make that obvious. Perry is based on Percy from Disney's Pocahontas. This was a direct copy from my dream, by the way. Weiss had a pug, and I woke up knowing I had to make that a reality. We only get a glimpse of her, but Persevere's Dalmatian is inspired by the 101 Dalmatians, and then Team Boom and Virgil. So, I've never played Devil May Cry. Apparently, there's someone named Virgil in it. This guy is not based on that Virgil. Virgil is based on Dante from Coco. In that movie, Dante is likely named in reference to Dante Alighieri from the famous trilogy starting with Dante's Inferno, a story about a man named Dante who gets a tour guide through the afterlife. A fitting reference for the dog in Coco, but in that book, Dante's guide is the archangel Virgil, and that is where I got the name from. I'm assuming that's also what Devil May Cry did. I wanted the animals to have semblances because 1, they don't have aura, so they need something to help them when they're fighting the Grimm. 2, it'll make referencing their fairy tales a lot more fun this way too. Now to answer some questions from the last BTS vid. Leave your questions here, and I might answer them in the next one. How does Penny eat food if she's a robot? Like, it burns up inside of her. It doesn't fuel her, but she can eat quote-unquote eat, for lack of a better term. How do I decide on episode titles? I always come up with a title after the episode is written, never before, because I try to use what was the most noteworthy part of the episode to help name it. A name that won't spoil anything necessarily, but when you see the title, you remember what happened in the episode. Some are definitely easier to come up with than others. Will we see Jean's other sisters? Yeah, eventually. As the story progresses, will I include all original characters, or will I try to stick to canon characters? I want to stick with just canon characters as much as possible. Even if I do use an OC, I would rather they reference something from the show, like how I came up with Tally Tortuga from Volume 1. They're still inspired by the character Harriet mentions. At most, it'd be like what I've done with Dorian and Teddy, like just NPCs, like background characters, you know? I said on Twitter my favorite ship is Sun and Penny, which is true. And they're cute. There's not enough fan art of them together. Will we see any of that in Reversed Fates? I'll spoil that one now. No. Part of the fun with Reversed Fates is that I'm playing around with other ships than just my faves. This is a longer comment, but the TLDR questions are, does Ozpin count as a 5th maiden because of the maiden powers he was gifted, which gave him the reincarnation? And also, is there an age limit who can get maiden powers like how the show has? So first, no. Technically, Ozpin is not a maiden. Just like the show, only women can become maidens, but, like how we see with Oz, a maiden can split off a piece of her power and gift it to anybody, regardless of gender. There's a theme going on, a theme of, like, gifting and sharing. It'll be important later. Unlike the show, though, I don't have an age limit for the maiden powers, because real talk, that rule never really made a whole lot of sense, right? And it's vague, and they never bring it back up. So I'm just tossing it out the window, honestly. 1. Who's my favorite character to write for? That's tough because I like a lot of them. Neo's fun, because I like playing around with using her hair colors to communicate things. The twins are fun, because they get to be sassy. And Weiss and Penny are just a fun dynamic together. 2. Will there be world travel like field trips? Kinda. Who was the easiest and hardest characters to design and come up with a reversed fate for? Design-wise, Neo was easiest. I'd just make her a cute doll. That was my thing. Just look at cute old porcelain dolls, do that, bam, perfection. The hardest, Velvet. I struggled with Velvet's design a lot. Her reversed fate is that she's actually encouraged to fight a lot more because of how versatile her semblance is, but, like, how do you design an outfit that's well armored because she's going into battle more often, but also flexible enough to allow her to mimic any fighting style on a whim? It was tough. I struggled. Whatever. As for coming up with the reversed fates, funny enough, Vernal was easiest. Just, you're a maiden. Do things with the plot. Go. Like, it just fell together so easily. Honestly, the whole Blackwing tribe, Team Venom, they're so easy to write for. I think the hardest might be Ruby. Summer being alive doesn't change the story a lot with Ruby directly, it more changes the elements around her. And a lot of Ruby's specific changes are more nuanced, you know? It's more subtle, so it's a little bit harder and trickier to get that balance right, at least in my opinion. Have I thought about giving the twins or Vernal's weapons names since the show didn't? I haven't, but that could be fun. I'd have to brainstorm it a bit though, but if you have suggestions, go ahead and leave them in the comments too. I'd love to see them. And that's it for this time. A great big one to get caught up on all the behind the scenes. I hope you've been enjoying Reversed Fates, and I hope this was interesting or helped be insightful for you to learn stuff. I hope you were excited to see how it wraps up. There's only 3 episodes left for Reversed Fates Volume 2. Well, I hope you have fun with it. Extra special shout out to my $50 patron, Just Some Major, who has some really impressive dance moves. And shout out to my $10 patrons, you're all amazing. Andrew, Valhalla Knight, Chamomile, Classy Critic, Genital War Thunder, Jake, Amber, Scaring Crows, Messiah, Jacob, Ben Sketchbook, Rain, Lucian, Wild Pilot, Juan, Bunkin Duncan, Hoodie Angel, Ranger, C1 Trooper, Sean, Ruby Rune, Lavaros, Plague, Tyrene, Thanos, Pandemonium, Peter, Agiri, Eden, Silverheart Soul, Doki Pokey, Zappy, Wolfgang, Philip, Mac and Cheese, Lalaroni, Davey, MD, Nerf Ned, Video Gamer, Peter, and Vermithor. So yeah, hope you had fun, hope you learned something. If you have any questions, I'd love to help answer them. Any theories about how Reversed Fates is gonna wrap up? I'm excited. I hope you learned something, and also I encourage you to like play around with Blender and VRoid Studio and all those things. Like just don't let money try to hold you back. You can do things with free software, and I encourage you to explore and play, and I hope you learned something about this. So any and all thoughts and opinions, theories, ideas, whatever you have, I would love to see them in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.